Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mine Mayday, the show all about Spider-Girl and her world. I'm Zach Joyner, the friendly neighborhood webmaster of Spidey-Dude.com and executive producer of the Spidey Dude Radio Network. Before we get started, I want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/Spidey Network. Patrons like you see up on the screen, like Allison, Cindy, Ed, Georgia, Greg, Janelle, Jessica, Jurgen, Catherine, Kale, Laura Howard, Lump Moose, Master Draman, Phoenician, Scott, Vanessa, Vicky, and Winnipeg Webhead. Thank you guys for your support. We've also got our VIPs, Scott, Sebastian, and Vinkman. And then we got our friendly neighborhoods here you see on the screen as well as Sarah. But we also got some newest patrons. We haven't updated the graphics yet, but I want to acknowledge them. Joey is one of our $1 patrons. Joyce and RJ are $5 patrons. And Tara is a $15 patron. Thank you guys for your support over on patreon.com/Spidey Network, where we got all sorts of goodies that are available to you right now and got a couple of things that are be coming out in this very beginning of May. If you haven't checked it out already, on Thursday, we will be doing the Ultimate Spidey Dude Experience, where we'll be talking about all of the Ultimate stuff. Slot Symposium coming very soon. New books of X will be dropping on Patreon. And then we have our interviews with Juan Ferrer, Greg Weisman, and JMD Mateus. Last week, we did the Chasm Dude Experience, talking about the latest issues of ASM. Voices from the Eerie just dropped a new episode. And, of course, you got our other shows like Sal Buscema podcast, Amazing Spider-Man Classics, Clone Saga Chronicles, and Spectacular Radio. All that you can be found over on Spidey-Dude.com or your favorite podcasting app. So if I'm doing an episode of Mine Mayday, there's always Kelly McDaniel. Hello, Kelly.
Hey, what part of no last name?
I'm sorry. I force a habit. I know. I apologize. Okay. I apologize. So, welcome to the show, everybody. We got Vinkman already in the house. Hello, Vinkman. And okay. We have got some housekeeping. Getting my notes back.
We got a lot to talk about.
We have a lot. This is a big episode, and so hopefully we started a little bit. Want to apologize for we were going to do this on Saturday. We're doing this on the Monday after. Things just kind of got hectic, and then today got
late on Monday because I would like to go to bed. So hopefully we can get through this fairly efficiently. But yeah, so
we are going to be to people that are watching us live. We are going to go through your comments, but we're going to probably do that at the very end of the show, not during, so that way we're not necessarily distracted. No offense to y'all guys, but yeah. So just so y'all know, we'll highlight you guys at the towards the end.
And obviously we will not go through everybody's comments, just, for time, but we do appreciate them and we do see them.
Yes.
And we are very thankful.
And for those that are watching after the fact, we'll see them, highlighted on the site too. So
yeah. All right. So let's start with housekeeping. So we got some wild news on Friday night.
Yeah. I remember this person too. It's funny.
Yeah. So basically on Reddit, which if you're not on the Spider-Girl subreddit, why aren't you? You should join. Come chat with me and Frogoat. But yeah, so an old member of the message board, their old username used to be May's Friendly Stalker, but I'm going to refer to him as Sean. He has given me permission to do so. So Sean got a no prize from Marvel Friday.
Week.
Yeah, Friday. And it was a no prize for his letter in issue 68 of Spider-Girl, a comic that came out January 2004. So literally almost 20 years ago and 6 months. So in the photo, and I'm not sure if Zach's going to put the post up or not on the screen. So for our listeners, basically the envelope was post dated April 23rd, 2024. So it wasn't like it was mailed years ago and it finally found Sean. And Sean doesn't know how Marvel got his current address. So this whole thing is a little strange, a little creepy. Just a smidge creepy. Marvel apparently knows where you live, just so y'all know. And yeah, it was a weird little no prize. Sean says that there was this drink recipe on the back of this purple card he got that's like, it just says coffee specialties and it just says beautiful, and on the back it has the ingredients to make a Parisian coffee, but it just which basically is like saying like a brandy glass and 3 ounces of Grand Marnier and 3 ounces of Hennessy in, I assume, in coffee, because that's the only thing I could think of with that, which is a little weird. And then he got $1 and a Dilbert desk calendar dated December 8th/9th, which I believe came from 2018.
There was a forensic analysis of this particular image.
I did. I was like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And he also got a copy of his letters page, which was definitely searched for and then printed, because on the back of the reprint, it definitely had like where they had gone through a search field. He just doesn't know what they were searching for. But his guess is that in issue 68, in the letters page, he thanks Tom DeFalco and the team and says he expects to see Mayday as a cartoon or in a movie or video game someday. So Sean thinks that's why he's getting the no prize, and maybe, it could be, especially because I think Into the Spider-Verse did come out on the 8th last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it is possible that this is like a thanking, like a here's your no prize because you are right. We find, she's finally made it into something. Or is this more? Is something else coming down the pipeline? So I don't know what this means, but Marvel knows where you live.
They will find you.
And they will send you the weirdest coffee cocktail recipes.
I need to ask Sean because he lives down the road from me now. Like Humble is like in the Houston area, so that yeah.
He went to great lengths to hide his address, and you're just like gonna.
Well, it says it in the letters page. If you're reading the letters page on the show,
he doesn't live there anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind. He used to live.
I mean, you can privately ask him where he is.
No, I'm not gonna ask him on like, hey, do you still live there on the show? But like, if he still lived in Humble, I would, yeah.
Yeah, no, I would reach out to him.
But yeah, no, I remember that handle very vividly. So,
but yeah, Marvel, what does this mean? Like,
is this part of a guerrilla marketing campaign that we didn't know about?
Yeah, I also just want to say I'm the only one that was like able to like confirm it was issue 68 just going off the next issue alone.
Yeah,
and like I tagged you and Jeffers and Frogoat. I just want to throw that out there, especially because this will have an overlapping theme, surprisingly. And yeah, it's what does this mean, Marvel?
I didn't know they still.
And where is our no prize?
Exactly. Well, I didn't know they still even had the envelopes. I assumed
that's what was weird too, and that's why like I was looking, like I was looking at the post date because I was like, did this just like somehow get lost and somehow just magically found him through like mail routing?
Yeah.
Or but now and two, it does look like they wrote Gene instead of Sean.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It does look like that. It doesn't look like
it looks like Gene. It does look like Gene. Like someone.
It looks like a J, not an S.
Like was Nick Lowe in his like office, like partying? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm very confused. What does it mean?
What does it mean?
But yeah, so that was like major like fandom news. And then we kind of go into more news that this could be a relation to or not. We don't know. Obviously, there's a new Spider-Verse happening. We all know that that was going to happen because, of course, the end of Spider-Verse can never truly be the end of Spider-Verse. It's just the last time Peter's going to be involved, I think, at least for a while. But we saw some hints in the new Edge of Spider-Verse mini that's coming out currently, and also in the first issue of this new Web of Spider-Man, because of course, it does look like we will be seeing Mayday. Now, the thing we don't really know is this going to be like little baby May from Into the Spider-Verse? Or is this going to be our Mayday of Earth 982? We don't quite know. Probably both, from the way that Edge of Spider-Verse is going, because I think the next issue is going to be all about the movie Spider-Woman. So, we're also seeing another redheaded May in the current Ultimate Comics. So it's been a Mayday world at Marvel lately, and that should be brought up, especially again in relation to what
we're talking about tonight.
Well, in relation to both, like I said, there's this overarching theme going on that scares me, and we're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna talk about why I'm scared.
So,
well,
yeah,
I should probably preface what I wrote before we go into
no.
Spider
I was
history.
about to jump to cue you.
Yeah.
That was. Let me stop sharing the screen too.
No, you're good. I mean, we could just stare at Sean's no prize and wonder why we didn't get it if Marvel is seriously that like a part of the CIA.
I've got a story for you off air that I don't think I can say on air, but yeah.
No fun.
You're not entirely wrong.
All right, chat. Convince Zach to tell the story at the end of the episode.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
You got to convince him though. You got to like make it really worth it.
Okay.
But all right, so before Spider history, and before Zach goes into Spider history and gives you the backstory into how these Marvel Unlimited comics came to be and the quick turnaround that's seemingly on these issues, and hopefully Zach will also go into the history of our writer and our editors, because I certainly did my research and I will call him out. But
yeah.
Anyway,
so I in terms of the turnaround, I do that more towards the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Not here in the history part, but I do talk about the turnaround when we get to the end of the episode.
Yeah, because we do need to talk about that as well. But I just want to preface by saying that this is the first episode of Make Mine Mayday, where we'll really need to be going back through Spider-Girl and 982 history for these issues, and the reasoning is to show that no one fact-checked or tried to keep the story within 982 and keep it within the lore and the world building that had previously come before it, and that makes my heart hurt a little bit. I know that it's going to be seen as a nitpicky, especially to a few editors who have already called out that nitpickiness, and has claimed it to be and spoken out as, saying the fans who do this are only trying to tear down the writers. And those same editors have insinuated that the fans that notice the inconsistencies have no lives. But let's talk about what editors are supposed to do. Especially when they put a young writer on a book that is supposed to go through multiple different universes very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And how quickly Stephanie needed to pivot issue over issue into these different worlds, and the support she clearly lacked to do this efficiently and seamlessly, at least from my outsider perspective. And the editor for these issues and for Spider-Verse Unlimited Infinity comic was Ellie Pyle. To say I'm disappointed is an understatement. Ellie Pyle is an editor. She started in 2011 at Marvel. She is the host, or was the host, of Women of Marvel podcast, and claims to know everything there is to know about women in Marvel comics. She claims to. So a comic book editor or editorial team, they're basically like the project managers of the issue and the series, the comic series that they're overseeing. They manage all aspects of the creative production of a comic book from the initial conception to the final product. They are the first reader of the comic book and are responsible for helping to develop the story and story arc, for fine-tuning the pacing, assisting with dialogue, ensuring that there is continuity or continuity, or however you want to pronounce it, of a story and its characters within and across the issues, providing feedback about layout and art, and ridding the work of typos, misspellings, grammatical errors, and et cetera, et cetera. There really wasn't a lot of continuity within the world building within these issues, which we will get into. I will be nitpicking them. I do not care if you think I have no life, Nick Lowe, because I actually care about this world. Do you care about the quality of work that you're giving out to your customers? Anyway, I think that it was, like I said, there just really wasn't a lot that was done to help support the writer here. And I think it was mostly left to the writer to do this on her own time, which if anybody works kind of in freelance, you understand that that's a lot of times too much to ask. And, I really don't think that Stephanie had a choice as to who she wrote about in each issue, at least not these issues. Not to say that I don't think she didn't do her best, or that she did anything truly disrespectful to May. I don't think that there was ill intention here, and I want to preface that and do my best to stay as kind as I can while being critical of these issues and their lack of knowledge in this world, while claiming to be in World 982 and claiming to be a continuation of this world. A world that we've been talking about on Make Mine Mayday now for 3 years, and it's been over 25 years worth of storytelling. And I get it, I do. This is a Marvel Unlimited comic, something only available to Marvel Unlimited members who have been paying Marvel $10 a month, or in my case, about $150 a year for almost a decade, over a decade, closer to a decade and a half now, because the app came out in 2010. And all because they launched the app with an exclusive Mayday book. Not that I fully expect anyone who pitched this story and was a part of this story to remember or realize that the reason they got to write these Infinity stories is because the app's success hindered on Spider-Girl fans in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And not that I expect the editorial team to even have an iota of an idea of how the app started and how that basically was our fandom, was the Spider-Girl fandom. We have been used and abused for many years by Marvel, and like I said, this is kind of one of those snapping points for me, and we'll talk about it as we get into it. But the Mayday fandom was tasked as the backbone of the app's success. And as much as Marvel always loves to downplay that, I don't remember another character who had an exclusive comic on the app as a start. Do you? Because I actually couldn't find it.
So this is everything that I remember. So I'll kind of go into this more in detail with history, but when they started the application, the mobile version of it, Spider-Girl was at the forefront. They had the web version as far back as 06.
Well, the app, yes, but the app itself, because this was like at the start of your iPhone. This was originally meant to just be online.
Yeah.
So when I say app, I'm not necessarily meaning this. It was the start of the craze for the e-readers. So it was stuff like, hey, look at what you can pull up digitally. You don't have to go into the comic store anymore and have the physical copy.
Yeah. And I'll talk about that too as we go along.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Marvel has a very, very long history of digital comics of some sort.
Yeah.
Going back to, so how long would that be? They had something called the Cyber Comics in the 90s. This
Well,
was
I haven't quite let me finish before
oh,
I let you
sorry.
jump into your cyber comics.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
before I let Zach have the floor to go over Spider-Girl history and also just the history of Marvel and digital comics, you know, and kind of explain what these Infinity comics are all about. I just wanted to make sure that we set the tone here appropriately, which I know I shouldn't be reading the comments, but Walter is claiming I'm snarky, and there's a difference between me being snarky and me actually just not being very happy. I'm not going to be snarky. I'm not going to make quips. I'm not, you know, I definitely don't want anybody going, "Oh, she was just tearing into this left and right." Like I said, I want to be as respectful as I possibly can.
Yeah.
It's just I feel one as a fan, I was let down by Marvel, and I
Mhm.
think the creative team was let down by Marvel
Yeah.
on this. And I think that just it's a little inappropriate because of how important Mayday is to the success of not only the Marvel Unlimited app, but also, honestly, to the success of Marvel in general, which is entirely what this podcast has been about.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just want to make sure that we all understand kind of where we are here and preface this ahead of time, because unlike the writing, even in Web Warriors, this is a completely different world and a completely different take on Mayday. This is not 982 as we know it. And I just don't want anybody to be shocked. And so with that, I will let you take it away, Zach.
Okay.
Get off the soapbox for a second.
So I'm making markers in StreamYard so that way I can, you know, each chapter. So if you're watching this after the fact, I'm going to go in with the timestamps on that. So that being said, like I mentioned earlier, so webcomics and Marvel, they go back this long ways. They had something called the Cyber Comics in the 90s, Marvel.com. These were mainly Flash-based stories. Flash. And they had these exclusive stories that were only online. You had to pay for them online. And I would have been too young at the time to do that, but I remember them advertising.
Flash, what's that?
Flash
If
was a
anyone
yeah.
doesn't know,
Yeah,
R.I.P. Flash.
R.I.P. Flash. MySpace days, man. Flash. I used Flash all the time.
It's before that.
Well, I know it's before that, but I used when I had a MySpace, I used the Flash stuff a lot. So
Yeah, HTML. You know
back
how
when
like you were remembered HTML? Yeah.
I mean, I still use it for the website in case something breaks. Sometimes I have to use HTML. So that's fun. So like I say, they had these exclusive stories, and I remember them advertising it with AOL keywords. So yes, I am that old. This was after Bob Harris's tenure as editor in chief, but then Bill Jamis took it over in 2000 with Casada, and they rebranded it Dot Comics. And instead of having all these comics online, they kind of cut it down to about a dozen books. So those 90s books would kind of be lost to time. The concept of digital comics would then be reimagined over time around 2004, 2005 into motion comics, where you actually, again, had to use Flash to read these. The most notable of that was the Spider-Woman motion comic that they did with Bendis, and then turned into
Also, guys, don't go find those motion comics. They were at one point like done like a movie on Netflix, and they are so bad.
yeah,
Just don't.
good.
Just let them die.
They need to die a slow, painful death. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that ended up, I think, getting republished into a actual 4-issue miniseries. So then Marvel would launch the service Marvel Digital Comics Unlimited on November 13th, 2007, bringing digital comics that were formerly available on DVD. They were selling DVDs of like ASM and Fantastic Four. They were also on CD before that, and then they put it on the DVD. The CDs is like a six disc set, and then the DVD I actually still have is got 525 issues of Amazing on it. So they basically took all those scans and brought them over, and there was about 2,500 comics at launch. And that was kind of when we started seeing the first iteration of the Infinity Comics debut. This was one of the more notable ones. Was this around Brand New Daytime? So they had Bob Gale and Pat Olliffe do a 5-issue series that was developed using this Infinity Comics. And they also heavily advertised Spectacular Spider-Girl. Now, back when we were talking about that with Amazing Spider-Man Family and the previous episodes, that was a huge selling point. So they were trying to take the already existing hardcore audience of Spider-Girl and use them as kind of a baseline for this app launch. So this was available on Apple and Android. And just to kind of give a brief history of that, mobile internet was very basic in the early 2000s. That changed when, they had the BlackBerry and the Palm and the Windows mobile phones.
Hold on. So, random tangent.
Sure.
Just to make everyone feel old. My nephew was spending the night last night, and we watched Mega Corporations That Built America. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about BlackBerry. And every single time they were showing a new phone, first words out of Gabe's mouth was, "What games could you play on it?"
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. You could play Brick Breaker.
You could play Snake.
Play Snake and a Brick Breaker. Yep. Snake was on the Nokia. Brick Breaker was on the BlackBerry. Because I had a BlackBerry Bold for a long time. I love that phone. And I had the Windows Mobile. Wow. I had the Motorola Q Windows Mobile phone around 08. So, but basically, it was all basic and stilted and very expensive. So people didn't have data plans. And the networks really weren't able to handle or take advantage of it.
It was nights and weekends.
Yeah. Call me after 7 so that way it's for free. Don't know where that voice came from.
I don't either.
But it wasn't until the iPhone in 2007's debut and the June release that the potential of the medium was even thought of. Immediately upon that phone's release, people were trying to jailbreak it, and they were putting third-party application stores on there. And eventually, with the 2008 release of the iPhone 3G, the debut of the App Store with iPhone OS 2.0, that thought about the concept of apps being used as a verb. 2009, Android would launch with it in a similar app store. And then we get to 2010 when they finally debut. It was around that same time also that Comixology debuted. So they kind of went sort of hand in hand simultaneously with the release. Having the internet in your pocket was a novelty in those days, and that was not the necessity that it is now. The major redesign, it had some tweaks over the times, but major redesign happened in 2021. September 9th of that year saw the modern Infinity Comics born. These are made to replicate more like webtoons, if you've seen. And the way it's designed is kind of different. It's designed for the scrolling ability and made to be scrolled down. In our interview with Juan Ferreira, he talked about how in the Infinity comic, Spine-Tingling Spider-Man, it allowed him to do some things a little differently. And you could see Spider-Man, he was able to do some things like aesthetically, like Spider-Man crawling down the sides, and you could flip it upside down and it would be the same thing. And it was very interesting to hear him talk about that, because he said it was a kind of a different way of approaching it. And so this change causes a philosophical different means of production and what we get now. The first 25 issues of this particular book, Spider-Verse, Spider-Man, Avengers, X-Men, they're all available for free. So if you don't have a Marvel Unlimited subscription, you can go and find them. I think it's marvel.com/unlimited or /Infinity Comics. But unfortunately, the issues that we're discussing tonight, they're still behind the paywall. So maybe they'll be available.
It's almost as if they want you to pay for this crap. Oh, whoops, sorry. But no, it's because it's Mayday. They want you to pay. I mean, again, do I
Yeah.
have to keep mentioning that she was the first NFT? How did that work out, Marvel?
Oof.
You want to tell us?
Oof. Not well, I don't believe. So, to briefly tell a little bit about the history of our writer this evening, Stephanie Williams started off her Marvel career as part of the Marvel Voices Legacy one shot from February 2021. That was celebrating Black History Month. And then last year, notably, she did the Marvel Voices Pride Edition for 2023. Started writing comics for her young daughter. She's done backups in Scarlet Witch, Captain America, also writing issues of What If Dark and the Iron Man annual. Beyond this, she's written issues of 39, 44 through 47 of this title, issues 26 through 30 of Spider-Man Infinity Comic. She's also done X-Men Unlimited Infinity Comics, issues 100 through 105. So she's kind of been bouncing around the Infinity stuff and done a lot of that. And she also apparently writes a couple of her own web comics as well. So, with the history portion out of the way, you got anything to add there, Cal?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna alternate breakdowns. I'm gonna do 2 breakdowns. I'm gonna do one, Kelly do one, and then do it again.
Yep.
So I am going to do issues 26. So Spider-Verse Unlimited Infinity Comic number 26, published on November 29th, 2022. Writer is Stephanie Williams. Nathan Stockman on pencils, inks. Pete Peranzis for colors. Joe Sabino as letterer. Ellie Pyle as editor on the Marvel app. However, the interiors advise. Jasmine Alvarez on production. Associate manager Annette Chang. Senior
Annie
manager
Chang.
Annie Chang, excuse me. Senior manager Tim Smith. Editor Mr. Daniel with supervising editor Eddie Pyle. EIC is CB Cebulski. It is the same creative team throughout all 4 of these. So
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not?
The editors changed in 3 and 4.
Oh, okay. I'll have to we'll have to rattle those off. So it's
I wrote them off. That's why I wrote all of them off.
I got
Guys,
you.
if y'all
Okay.
don't not understand, I spent 6.5 hours
She did.
on making sure that these notes were absolutely perfect. Because when I say that I want to be as kind as I can
Mhm.
while fairly critiquing this, which meant my T's needed to be crossed and my I's needed to be dotted, and I needed to know what I was criticizing.
Absolutely.
I mean it.
Yeah. So, our issue opens with Mayday and Davita at Midtown High School. We are introduced to Jason, who offers for some extra tokens at his uncle's fun center. Davita says that she's got plans, but tries to put Mayday on the spot, who then corrects Davita and says she's supposed to watch her little brother for the night. Basically, Davita's trying to set the 2 of them up. He suggests that Benji would love it if he would come down and wishes them well as he leaves if he doesn't get to see them on Monday. Davita, of course, like I say, trying to set him up, despite Mayday having a boyfriend, I'm going to point out, at least allegedly.
He's not here.
Where is Wes? Why is Wes missing? We get Mayday walking home thinking about life as a superhero with some floating heads of villains, but then her spider sense goes off and she rushes into action. Now, the weird thing about these Infinity comics, they don't really have covers. Basically, they just take panels from the issue and that's what they do. And so the cover is like her like mid-change here. Turns out the Lady Hawk twins need some assistance against Mr. Abnormal and Killerwatt in front of
I'm trying
McDuffie's.
so hard not to say.
I know.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
In front of McDuffie's place, a comic shop that we've never seen before. Turns out that Abnormal wanted to rob the place and get his newest comics, which at $5 a pop, I can understand. Hawks grab Mr. Abnormal's arms and stretch them out to where Mayday could throw Killerwatt into him, and after webbing his shoes to the pavement, after Mayday does this, the fight quickly ends because he gets bonked in the head with Abnormal's hands. She heads home, meeting with MJ and Peter, who is alive.
Oh yeah. We should probably preface this that this was done, unless my internet went out, because it does look like Zach is frozen. But I do need to preface that Peter here is perfectly fine, but when these came out, we did not know that he was a big giant spider.
Thank you.
Also, you cut out like right when you said that Peter was fine.
Oh, Peter was alive. Peter mentions that they should have stayed in if needed, but Mayday insists Benji is clearly older than an infant. And once Mayday turns on the TV, we see an ad for Cade Classic Arcade Dining and Entertainment. This universe is equivalent to Dave and Buster's / Chuck E. Cheese / hell. Benji says he wants to go
hell?
there. Yes, if you've ever been to Chuck E. Cheese.
Starcadia.
Starcadia, okay. Says Benji wants to go there, and to be continued. That's how the issue ends. Kelly, your thoughts, my
Yeah, so let's start from the top on things I can't get past. Sure, we could ask where Wes is, especially after he risked his life, almost died when Peter did die in the first Spider-Verse, but I guess we can let that slide for a second. Just a second. Let's call out Lady Hawk. Like calling Lady Hawk the Lady Hawk twins. Okay, so a little bit of history for anyone who has forgotten and doesn't want to go listen to previous episodes, although you should. You definitely should.
And leave us that 5-star review.
Yeah, please. Or don't. Leave us a 1-star review and tell us how you hate us, Ellie Pyle. Please. Love it. Thanks. Anyway, so the first appearance of Lady Hawk is issue 6 in 1999, titled "Look Out for Lady Hawk." Are we sensing where I'm going with the lack of the word twins? We find out in issue 6 of Spider-Girl that the twins, Rosetta and Regina Morgan, started Lady Hawk as a means to look superhuman. They use the fact that they are twins to pretend to be one person. This is why when Hobgoblin cripples Regina at the end of the Spider-Girl run, Rosetta goes so hard in trying to keep up, and why Regina has to break down and need assistance from Spider-Girl in the issues of Amazing Spider-Girl. This is to keep Rosetta going too far. Regina, at that point, had become the girl in the chair, an oracle, if you will. And while lately, I get it, for some strange reason, that seems to be too passé in comics, to just have someone in the chair and being smart and doing things behind the scenes. DC. At no point anywhere in the series were they ever called the Lady Hawk twins, and at no point ever in the series did either sister fight side by side in the middle of the day where everyone could see them, because then that would lose their entire gimmick. A gimmick, mind you, that they cleverly crafted and even paid to have an attorney retained, this would be Phil's wife Mary, to keep this fact out of the public eye. It is in multiple issues of Spider-Girl. It is in their first issue. All you needed to do was read issue 6 to know that this is the preface of Lady Hawk and the concept of Lady Hawk. The sisters even call themselves by their names in the middle of the day fighting these guys. So, I guess it's so we know which twin is which, but that makes it even more confusing because that means you do know their names. So someone did some research, but this was completely glossed over. Or did somebody just read a Wikipedia page and assume and filled in the blanks? But let's move on until they mention it again and I go insane. So then the next thing, the fight is outside of McDuffie's, not Deacon's Den. But that's also not something I'm really that upset about, because there can totally be 2 comic stores in New York City.
And I get why you used. I mean, there's been a lot of. I mean, Dwayne. It's named after Dwayne McDuffie.
Dwayne McDuffie, who he deserves all of the praise. If every comic book world has to have it, McDuffie's cool. Like I'm happy about that. Like that.
Yeah, that's
the least of my concerns.
Lowest of
the concerns. But it is very notable when we know the most famous, but the most known comic book store in the Spider-Girl world is Deacon's Den. And it's not Deacon's Den, it's McDuffie's. So anyway, they're fighting Killer Watt and Abnormal, who they just call Abnormal, but his name is Mr. Abnormal. At no point in time did we just call him Abnormal in the series. He was always Mr. Abnormal. But all right, that's cool too. Like I said, it's these little things that I know seem nitpicky and, as Zach will say later, pedantic. But I have to mention it because it is the thing that sets off the alarm bells in my head as I'm reading this, going, what is going on here? This is not right. So in any way, Abnormal. Now the last time I remember seeing them, and again, these could be written away. This could be explained away. It's just we don't get an explanation. The last time I saw them, or I remember seeing them, is when they were working for Whedon, on Whedon's team, being forced to be good guys.
Yeah.
Yes, Zach. Sorry.
That was at literally the end of. That was during Spider-Girl the end, because they show up to help fight the Hobgoblin. So they're there.
Yeah.
Fighting.
They're in Spider-Girl the end, fighting for the good guys.
Yes.
And so here's my thing. Like, they are fighting on the good. Now, obviously, yes, they're doing it so they can, get out of jail quicker. But they are, with the good guys. They are with the government. They are fighting for the government. And now, obviously, I don't necessarily think that they changed a new leaf. It's just a little weird seeing them rob a comic store for petty theft after working for the government to get out of jail. Do you see where I'm like, this is very confusing because this doesn't make sense to me? Not to mention Mr. Abnormal, or just Abnormal as he's called here. Abnormal says it's Killer Watt's idea to rob the store. But if you go back and you actually read their issues that they first popped up in, Abnormal, or Mr. Abnormal, is the petty thief. He uses his powers for petty thievery. So this part makes sense. Killer Watt, when he got his powers, only wanted revenge because he basically feels like he was left for dead by the band. So he wanted to commit murder, not petty thievery of a
He's a homicidal maniac, not a petty thief.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. No. Yeah.
And I mean, sure, I guess the hard times fall on all. But do you see where this doesn't, I have questions and this doesn't track?
Yeah.
And for the entire marketing around the Infinity Comics to be like, we're going through all the different worlds. We're going to show you World 982. This is not what world is this?
Literally the whole point of the Spider-Verse book itself is to hop from universe to universe, and eventually there's a last story at the end of the year long. This is a year long book.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. The final story is literally all the 616 spiders getting together with Gwen and fighting Ashanti, the first spider. But it was supposed to be the anthology of, hey, we're jumping from universe to universe and telling a story, and some of the stories would carry over to different stories and stuff like that. But this is never referenced again. Wonder why. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
I just like I said, because a lot of people told me that I was being crazy when I was pointing these out.
I remember.
No. I mean, I am crazy, but not like that. Anyway,
Wow, Kelly, self-owned.
Anyway, so in this story, Peter is alive. He's not a giant spider and is using a cane. Mary Jane has short hair and is dressing like she did when she was working at the fashion magazine before Benji was born. Benji is also like 5 or 6 years old now, but May is still in high school. Benji, as we've stated multiple times, Benji was born when May was 15. This has been established. This is a major comic book arc in the Spider-Girl comics. So this is supposed to be canon. This story is supposed to be canon. Like I don't. Anyway, it's something I will state is Marvel never said, point blank, outright, directly that these stories are canon.
Yeah.
They just said we'd be visiting these worlds. But it's a lot of choices here are very bizarre, especially when you read. I think before this story was a Miles story.
Mhm.
That would have been in 616. See, that's the thing. When they jump around to the 616, that all has to be exact.
Yeah.
But this story, they get to do whatever the heck they want. And nobody cared to fact check it. Or not necessarily fact check, but lore check it, I guess.
Yeah. What makes yeah, I'll let you finish and then I'll get into my notes.
No, that's basically it for right now.
So okay. The other thing I'm going to point out, Mr. Abnormal's motivation in issue 15 was to rob comic stores because he wanted to buy
Abnormal. He's not Mr. anymore. There's no Mr.
The man formerly known as Mr. Abnormal, he's now Prince. He's going to go buy a symbol in the next story. His whole motivation was to rob the comic store to go get the Golden Age comics, the most valuable comics, and then he was going to turn around and resell them. Somewhat makes sense if he never appeared again. But he did. And I made a joke when I said, look, we're pedantic nerds. That's like a reference to Michael Bailey and old Crawl Space joke. We're going to point these things out because we care. When I say I'm a pedantic nerd, it's because I actually care about these books.
But the issue is Marvel doesn't.
Disney/Marvel treats it like an IP factory, and we've got to continue to churn all the time. More than most fan bases, the story of Spider-Girl is the story of the fan base. I don't expect Stephanie to necessarily know that. I do expect Ellie Pyle to. She was around. She was around for the
especially the woman who has an entire podcast, or used to, claiming she knows all about the women of Marvel and is this Marvel historian.
It's pretty infuriating and frustrating. So I'll talk about like the turnaround from pitch to publication on these books later, because I think it's interesting because we actually have firsthand accounts and stuff that we'll definitely also be talking about at length next episode. But it's just really, to me, just to round it out, it's annoying as hell. It's frustrating. I echo a lot of what Kelly's saying.
Well, and this is what makes it so upsetting with Ellie. Ellie does know her Spider-Man. She knows her 616. Yeah. I honestly, I would prefer Ellie to be the editor than Nick Lowe. But whenever she has Mr. Daniel before her in editing, and this is something I've noticed over the last year, everything gets really screwy. And it's not her best. It to me, I wouldn't want my name on it if I was the supervising editor.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy. But with that, let's move on to issue 27. If I can figure out how to get to the page.
Oh.
Anyway, I flipped the monitors around, and so now they're all backwards.
Oh.
Anyway, so issue 27. Spider-Verse Unlimited, issue 27. It was published on December 6th, 2022. Writer Stephanie Williams, Nathan Stockman on pencils and inks, Pete Pedansis for colors, Joe Sabina as letter, Ellie Pyle as editor on the Marvel app. However, the interiors advise there is Jasmine Alvarez on production. The associate manager is Annie Chung. Senior manager is Tim Smith, or Tim Smith 3, as he wants to be called. Editor is Mr. Daniel, with supervisor editor Ellie Pyle. Editor-in-chief is CB. So the VIP experience, part 2. We start the issue with a man in a giant chair watching the news and a bunch of security cameras. He's wearing a man bun, so you know he's that guy. TM, trademark. It's trademark. He's that guy. That guy.
Not
and
you,
the
Walter.
news.
Sorry. It's an old joke.
I mean, does Walter wear a man bun?
No, he Mr. Slot used to call him that guy every time somebody would bring him up, because he didn't like Walter. So Walter became affectionately known as that guy because of Dan Slott.
This still might be about you. We don't know. But anyway, the news again calls Lady Hawk, the Lady Hawk twins. You know what Mary was hired to prevent, the thing Mary was hired to prevent the world to know about, but now is just national news, New York City news. So no, I'm not letting this go, because it's literally against everything we've ever known about Lady Hawk. And it actually deeply upsets me that this is seen as okay. But anyway, the creep in the man bun is excited to hear about all the masked superheroes and masked villains in this area, and he hopes that they come to him first so he can test out the VIP section of this plan. We cut to his camera feed, and he kind of around his news screen. And we see in camera 1 that it's the entrance to Cade, classic arcade dining entertainment. And then we cut to camera 3, which has May and Benji walking in. Benji, to his credit, is wearing a J2 on his shirt. At least I would hope that that's J2 on his shirt. Maybe it's just the Juggernaut. Maybe, real fans would know that call out. Do you, Marvel, know that call out? No? Okay. Anyway, Benji obviously is pretty excited, and as May goes to get money loaded on a game card, Jason, aka not Brad, aka not JJ, just random blonde man 3, comes to say hi to May. Jason's, oh no, actually he's 4. He's random blonde man 4, because the creeper that pictured her naked in the shower, he was also blonde. This is blonde man number 4, guys. Creepy blonde man number 4. Okay. So anyway, Jason suspiciously overhears the need for a game card and hands Benji one, just awfully convenient for plot. Awfully convenient for plot. Didn't Jason say his uncle owned the place? Thoughts? Huh. All right, Benji immediately runs off. First, climbing the rock wall without the assisted harness that no one stopped the kid to wear. I mean, they are teenagers. They just get paid minimum wage to work there, but what? Anyway.
The insurance company is freaking out right now.
And Benji, anyway, so he totally runs up the rock wall without the assisted harness, and creepy man bun guy is totally watching and is way too excited to be watching a small child on a camera. Just way too excited. Benji, who has powers and organic webbing, and we do see this, we do see him have organic webbing in the end of Amazing Spider-Girl, so this is normal. And we see him use it when he helps stop a kid's bumper car when a kid's car is spinning out of control. No harm there about his organic webs, but I'm making sure that we mention it for later. And by later, I mean in a few panels after this. So May and Benji go to play skee ball, but May gets a bit too rough and a ball goes flying, and we see Webs suddenly get the ball and pull it back before it hits a woman who was helping her child tie her shoes. When we see that it's been caught on camera 14, it does look like May is the one that shot the webs. So did she bring her web shooters? I mean, she is wearing a long sleeve shirt in this issue, but why would she bring her web shooters to just babysit her brother? As we know, in World 982, both Peter and Mayday do not have organic webbing. It is just Benji. The only spider who did or still does in all of Marvel universes that I'm aware of is Raimi movie Peter. Almost everybody else has web shooters. So I mean, I'll let Zach confirm on that one, but it's just very interesting that May might have organic webs here.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it later because we get confirmation later. But again, creepy man bun guy is just very excited to see the webbing and sees our heroes' faces because he's just found the perfect guest for his new VIP section. To be continued. All right, Zach.
So, doing my research, Raimi film Peter has the organic webs, obviously. Peter before Brand New Day, but it was erased by the Devil Change. So,
but it wasn't original. It came after he was the first time, or right?
That was no. It was actually when he got turned into a giant spider by Paul Jenkins during Avengers.
Yeah, that was the other.
No, that was a separate story. You had Avengers Disassembled, and you had the other. The same exact, pretty much the same exact story, but the disassembled one took place before.
Okay, all right, fine. My brain.
The other is what gave him the stingers.
That's right.
That's the difference.
In any case, that in fairness too, I think that also was an answer though for Raimi Spider-Man, correct?
Oh yeah, that was 100% them trying to do synergy.
Yeah. So
also Kane as Scarlet Spider has organic webs.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm not saying that organic webs is bad. I'm just saying that again, this is not the world as we know it.
No. Yeah, that's all I was trying to confirm was
yes.
You asked me that.
Yeah.
and I don't have like a lot of other thoughts on this because it's definitely second chapter syndrome, you know?
Yeah.
But the K thing is cute. I did laugh a little bit at Benji, like the way the panel layout was with her handing the card and Benji just taking off and running up and like, oh, the kid's a natural. I did like that.
Well, yeah, it's very much what we know, which I know it's like Benji is a baby, but like he had a lot of energy. He,
I mean,
we've talked about like, head canons. He would be a lot more like his mother.
Yeah.
And that gives me those vibes.
Yes.
So like, I do like slightly older Benji. I just think maybe she should have been in college. In fact, she does look like she's in college. She is drawn like a mom. Versus the teenager in most of these. So, I could, if you didn't have the background for us to bring Jason in, which even then, you could have just set this in college, had it a little older. Wes had to go away for college, and then here's Jason. And
you take away the Midtown High, like that one panel,
and it literally fixes most of this.
Yes. Like in the not too distant future, Peter's sort of back. got, he broke his leg, so that way he has to use the cane to keep
or he's just using the cane for appearances at this point.
Yeah, like we can make so much headcanon, and we can talk about that at the end. But like, yeah, we can twist ourselves into a pretzel, but it's just on its face, there's just a lot that doesn't work.
Yeah, a lot that does not work because again, nobody did the research and nobody cared to fact check and nobody cared to do much of anything because this was a app only exclusive story.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like I said, I tried my best to like these. I am doing my best to be as fair and kind as possible. I was excited about this story. If anybody can remember, I was super excited about the story. I wanted to review this story on satellites because we do not review Marvel app exclusives on Spider-Man Crawl Space or on the satellites, but I begged for this. I was so excited for this. And I had really good hopes with everybody that was involved. Nathan Stockman's tweets about this showed just how excited he was. And I do really believe that he is a fan. I do believe that he read Spider-Girl. I mean, he draws her with long hair. He's the first artist that we've seen post Spider-Verse that has drawn her with long hair. Like,
and
most of the time, that's kind of your like tip off that this is somebody who's read more than, just the scholastics. Like, this is somebody who really, I do think, really wanted to give, their homage to the character and was excited to draw her and excited to draw this world. But the thing is that this story is not fitting. There's a lot wrong with it.
I'll be honest. Stockman does a huge amount. I think he draws almost every issue of this weekly series. So he does a lot of heavy lifting here. And so got to give him a shout out considering the amount of output and probably the lead time he had on these.
Oh yeah. So. And again, we'll talk about that later, but that's like, it's more of like, you're sitting here, at least for me, I was so excited.
Oh,
this is just not it. Like, this is not it at all. And it gets worse. Somehow it gets worse.
All right.
So let's go into issue 3.
The third issue, Spider-Verse Unlimited issue 28, published on December 13th, 2022. Stephanie Williams, Stephanie Williams is the writer. Nathan Stockman is the pencils and inker. Pete Patantis is for colors. Clayton Crowles is the editor. Ellie Pyle is editor on the Marvel app, whatever the interiors advise. Jasmine Alvarez on production. Associate manager Annie Chang. Senior editor Tim Smith. Editor Mr. Daniel, with supervising editor Ellie Pyle. Editor-in-chief is C.B. Cebulski. The VIP Experience, Part 3. We see Mr. Man Bun stating that he wants to start the VIP package. As Benji pulls a lever for the spin and win. He's operating this like it's Las Vegas, where the house theoretically always wins. Benji, though, hits the jackpot, and Jason comes over to congratulate them. May thinks it's the Parker magic touch. Sorry, I just hated that line. Jason escorts them to the VIP room. Again, this is like Vegas meets Chuck E. Cheese. This is a theater with an animal band playing that is the face of my nightmares from old Chuck. Pizza is yummy, according to Benji, and Mayday says the show's not bad, like a good sister would. They give it a standing ovation. Benji wonders if they can play again, when they're suddenly invited up by the animatronic. Spider sense goes off for both of them as they are transported into giant claw machines and pinball machines. Man Bun shows up as a hologram and welcomes them to the entertainment. May says that they made a big mistake, and Benji does too. Man Bun formally introduces himself as we learn his name, R. Cade the Third. Don't know who the second was, but we know Arcade the Third is this particular person. Cade has an affinity for the skill games and became a local legend in the arcade scene. But after a superhero fight destroyed the place, he lost years of hard work in seconds. That day, he made his life's mission to make Capes understand how difficult it was for him to achieve what he did. Mayday represents the reader saying, I put the leader. Mayday represents the reader saying that's the most ridiculous villain origin story that she's ever heard. Cade says that's the least of their worries. Benji says they don't have their suits. What? Mayday says,
yeah, suits, plural,
not singular, plural.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Mayday says it doesn't matter. Cade says that they survive, that their secret is safe with him because you can trust a maniacal maniac. Okay.
With a man bun.
With a man. I never.
Who likes to watch little kids on his monitors.
Oh, no. Okay.
I had to bring it up.
We have, jeez.
I had to say it.
The duo says that they're going to win. MJ then texts Mayday checking in, and Benji climbs up a shaft that they were lowered into because they were lowered into the next level. A giant mallet is coming down on Benji's head as the issue ends. Oh, no. Review. Kelly, your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts. So Arcade the Third is a character created for this comic, just FYI, but we're guessing he's this universe's or this version, whatever the heck this is. Arcade, sometimes known as Mr. A or Edward Arca, but really his name is unknown. He was created by Chris Claremont in 1977 in Marvel Team Ups issue 65, I believe.
Yes. With John Burnham on
John Burnham. Yep. So also they clearly don't know what character they're using if they're calling him Randy. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, suits. So there's a 5/6-year-old, which of course, you know, I remember us being all upset, and now there's an 8-year-old named Bailey running around with the mind of a 7-year-old man.
Yeah.
Inhabiting his body now because, you know, we had to make that worse. Slot. Does he not realize that that's somehow worse? Anyway.
Luckily,
slightly off topic, but it's just yeah, a 5 or 6-year-old, you know, should not be running around with a suit or fighting crime.
This is a similar discussion that we had as a community.
He's in kindergarten
with Annie. With Annie, you know, being an 8-9-year-old, like my daughter's age, running around being a superhero. No.
But see, and that's the thing too. This is also coming hot off the heels of people's recollections of Spider-Girl being why is Peter so mean? Because in Renew Your Vows, Peter is so cool. I want him to be a cool dad. And it's like, I don't know how y'all seem to understand irresponsibility and stupidity are not really a part of Peter's traits. Sorry. I am getting snarky. Walter's right. I'm being snarky.
Well, I mean, but
nice today.
But it's just like my thoughts are, why does Benji have a suit? I have questions about Peter and Mary Jane at this point.
Exactly. Well, and see, exactly, that's the whole point. And it's like it doesn't make sense. Like this goes against everything you know about this series. If anybody had read more than a Wikipedia page, they would know how wrong this is. Like these little tiny details that their project manager should have known and caught, or at least double checked. Prefaced it by saying that this was an homage to the world and this had nothing to do and was not canon. Instead of treating it like a jumping point for a new series if it did well. Because this is it gets more and more like a slap in the face to 25 years worth of comics. And somebody who runs a podcast, an official podcast called The Women of Marvel, can't give the longest running female-led comic title respect enough and is allowing this is insulting. I'm sorry, but it is. It's insulting.
And it's we'll get like I say, we'll get into that here in a bit.
Anyway, let's go into
the final
issue. Thank God. So Spider-Verse Unlimited issue 29. It was published December 20th, 2022. Writers are Stephanie Williams, Nathan Stockman on pencils and inks, Pete Pedancic on colors, Clayton Cowles is letterer, Ellie Pyle as editor on the Marvel app. However, the interiors do advise. Jasmine Alvarez on production, associate manager Annie Chang, senior manager Tim Smith 3, editor Mr. Daniel, with supervising editor Ellie Pyle, editor-in-chief is CB Slabusky. And obviously the title is The VIP Experience Part 4. Benji has climbed up to the top of a giant smack-a-mole. They call it smack-a-mole, not whack-a-mole. I wasn't aware whack-a-mole was a trademark. Anyway, and a giant mallet seemingly hits him as Arcade watches on. But obviously you can't count a spider out, and Benji, in all of his 5 years, pulls a perfect recreation of Spider-Man 33 and pushes the mallet up above his head, and then with one hand to use the other to punch and smash through the mallet. This excites Arcade, and he changes the game to something a bit more acrobatic. He has the clowns you normally would shoot a gun with, to now shooting lasers at our heroes. They gracefully jump and dodge from the lasers, but as May grows tired of the game and realizes they need to get home soon, she starts using her webs that are definitely not coming out of a web shooter to get a reflective panel that the lasers are bouncing off from, and she uses this panel to direct the lasers back at the clowns and destroy them. Arcade gets mad and claims that this is cheating, and May, angry now, tells the guy it's not fair to pick on a teenage girl and a little kid as she picks up a clown head and uses it to shoot a laser into the wall that goes straight into the control room, meaning she does have her powers. They like her spider sense, and they work the way that they did in the comic series, meaning she knew he was there. And so either she was just playing games until she got mad, or plot. You decide. So anyway, she uses the laser to blow a hole in the wall straight to the control room Randy was in until just now. But Randy tells them that they've given him enough information for him to shut this experiment down, and he'll create something new later. And May just shakes it off like it's totally fine. She and Benji walk out of the building to find Jason there, seemingly worried about them, telling her that his uncle had called to say that the building is being shut down indefinitely, and then asks her out since he's free after losing his job. And May seems into it. Y'all, I mean, look, she does have a problem with toxic white blonde boys, but
that would be Mayday's type.
It sadly is. But it feels a little weird. We still don't know where Wes is. And this guy was just way too convenient for plot for me to believe that he's normal. Or generic white boy number 4. But anyway, later back at the Parker residence, Pete and MJ get home from the date night to find Benji asleep on the couch and May scrolling on her tablet. She's chatting it up with the Lady Hawks, who I guess we aren't adding Lady Hawk twins to their contacts. But May keeps them informed of what happened and says that they need to keep an eye out since this is just the beginning. May is talking to them directly over, say, Normie or the Avengers or Fantastic Five, as she would normally do. Nope, just the Lady Hawks, who are a crime-fighting duo now, which goes against everything we've ever known about them ever, and how they don't normally like to work with anyone, and only have ever worked with the Warriors because of Spider-Girl, and never once were this tight with her. And I believe only ever used Phil to reach out to Spider-Girl.
Yes.
Even in Amazing. Like, they don't have a direct number to each other. But yeah, okay. So we end this with a splash page of May looking extra pissed, and it's split with her as Spider-Girl, and she does really resemble that photo of the actress from The New Invisible Man when she's like angry in Handmaid's Tale, and I can't remember her name because I didn't write this in the notes, but like I'm talking about if you put a side by side of that picture and that actress who is 10 years older than I am, it's the exact same. But this is supposed to be a 15-year-old girl. Anyway, also something to note in this, she never once called Mayday. She's never once called Mayday in this comic, just pointing that out. And the end, question mark.
Yeah. 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 I was trying to pull that up. I actually had the covers. I forgot that I had the covers.
Oh, cool.
I had downloaded them. So I have the cover for that 4th issue here.
Okay, hold on. It's Elizabeth Moss. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna find the photo.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you show the side by side for the people that are just listening voice wise, which you definitely should be watching our YouTube.
Yes.
We are showing some visuals representation because I just really want to show kind of what I mean. And again, it's not me being mean to Nathan Stockman, not really. As much as I just
The art is not the
I
problem.
couldn't believe that she like I had a hard time believing she was 15, but it had a lot to do with how old Benji was.
Right.
So I'm trying to get like a link to this image so I can
Send it to me.
send it to you. Yeah, not that one. It's the it's the splash page on 4. That one, yeah, that one. Okay. So for our visual people that are on the live stream, you can see issue 29, and now
oh God, yeah.
Zach will show the picture of Elizabeth Moss from The Handmaid's Tale that I'm thinking of and referencing. Is there a way for you to show them side by side? Can you like?
Okay. I don't think so.
Okay.
I'd have to.
I might post it on social.
So there's the well, I can throw the overlay over it. So there's the face.
Well, there's Elizabeth Moss.
There's Elizabeth Moss's face, and then there's Mayday's face right there.
Am I
Brown
wrong?
hair? You're not wrong. That is extremely.
And she plays a woman close to 40.
Yeah, she looks a lot older on this.
Anyway, sorry. Anyway, so sorry. Right. I know that sounds terrible, but anyway, I'm gonna let you talk about your thoughts, and then I will go into mine.
Oh yeah, Kelly's got a soliloquy here, and so I'm not going to try to get in the way.
I have a call to arms for anyone listening. Please share this. I have a call to arms. I'm really not joking.
So my plan is the audio edition will go out tonight to the Patreon. That's my plan.
Cool.
And then next week.
Y'all do know, I just want to make sure that everybody is aware. No offense to everybody at Patreon. I love you guys. Thank you for helping.
Yeah.
But Make Mine Mayday has never been about Patreon.
Yeah.
I want this free to anybody who needs it and can listen, because the whole point of the way we review things is to make sure you have access
Yeah.
to the story.
Yeah. No, I get that.
So it's for the people.
It's for the people. We're all about the people.
We are.
So I know, like I just said, I know that Kelly is going to give a lengthy description of why this is not a good book. It's just that we know, we do know that these were pumped out at an absurd pace, and so they tell you. So we're going to tell you a little bit about what we've learned from behind the scenes. I asked an expert on the lead time of these books, a guy by the name of Ron Frenz. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
About how long this might have taken to get out. So from the start of all this, I think they were approached in early January.
To preface, we were asking Ron Frenz about what we're going to talk about in the next episode, which is the Avengers Avengers Next mini that was in it's
Avengers
Unlimited Infinity comic. So
this is
we were asking him about his experience. This is not
Nathan's experience.
This is not Stephanie's experience. This is not.
This
is just us trying to get an idea of just how fast these had to be churned out, because they were coming out, as you can see, every 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, and in the Avengers case, I believe it's back-to-back weeks. So, or was it?
I think they were every other week.
Okay. So, like I say, they were approached at the beginning of January. So from the beginning of January to the final Eeks for part 1 of the Next book, it was the last week of January. The second chapter, because it's a 2-part story, was the inks were done in the middle of February. So he basically drew all the pencils for both these issues at once, and then Brett Breeding did the inks for it in those 2 issues. So we know that these were published, and I double checked. It was March 7th and 14th. So back-to-back weeks. So that's a very, very quick turnaround for essentially 2 books. Because of this, it's likely not easy for them to pull out a lot of editorial oversight, we think. And that being said, this is, as a story for MC2, this is not a good story.
But also, would you really want, if you were the editor on these, would you want your name on this?
No. And to honestly give my just overall thoughts as a story itself, it's very inoffensive and just fine as a story. It's not great. It's not good. I think the artwork's pretty good for the most part. There's some little things here that I have nitpicks on, but again, if this guy is sitting there just cranking out pages every freaking week, 14, 15 pages every couple of weeks, like that's a lot. And that's the issue that, and Kelly's going to go into this more, that a lot of the hardcore faithful have. And I understand there's some people that are like, hey, we're getting more Mayday, we should be fine. But Kelly's going to explain why this is not okay. And I think we've tried to talk about it throughout here too. But it's just, to me, and I think Kelly can, and I kind of agree on this. This was a giant disappointment. This is the first new non-tie-in to an event or new series where she's plucked out of her world for plot, and that we were getting a new story in the world that we love, and it's not right.
And 2, just before this came out, it had been pretty much, it was teased, but it was pretty much was stated that May was going to be in, or a version of May, baby May, was going to be in Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
So this felt like this was pointed.
Corporate
this was voluntold to write this story. And we were thinking, oh, okay, so they want this to do well. And I mean, I did my best to support this to the first issue, and then I was like, Lady Hawk twins, and my brain broke. But I have no words ultimately on this. As I wrote, I had a breakdown. I did have a breakdown. Had a breakdown when I wrote these show notes as well, but that's a separate issue. If my parents and Zach's parents can stop dying, that would be great.
Trying to die,
trying
yes,
to die,
please.
yeah.
Please.
But yeah. So
we might have to explain that after you're done, because
yeah. Anyway, but mostly just this entire story. I was making my thing here was I was making sure I had my T's crossed and my I's dotted in what I brought to this episode today, more so than normal. And if you guys know me or have listened this entire time, you understand exactly how precise I am in my notes and how I expect that out of Zach. Expect that out of everybody, but I can't ever get that out of Brad. So it's not
Shots
a dig.
fired,
It's just
Douglas.
the truth.
Shots fired.
It's not a dig. It's just the truth.
Brad catching strays over here.
Anyway, but this story, yeah, all love. But no, seriously, this story is bad. The story is absolutely bad, and I can't get past the things that really they didn't have to be in here. They didn't have to be in this story.
No.
Aging up Benji, fine. I totally get, especially if you've never read the series, you just know it's the little brother and you need him a little bit older. That's comic book classic style. Did the Lady Hawks have to be in the story? What do they bring to this story?
Nothing other than a setup. It's not even really a setup.
They don't have to be here. Yet, they are given a very glorified cameo, which of course I was happy to see until they're called the Lady Hawk twins. And I can't fathom how anybody, any reader of Spider-Girl, didn't care at all to help Stephanie fine-tune this story and help her, make this the best that it can be. Because at the end of the day, it's almost like you are asking to push Stephanie under the bus for this. And that's the last thing I want to do in this discussion. Because it's not on her. Yeah, when you are telling her to write a story featuring Mayday Parker. She needs that help. She needs somebody to give her the background, the appropriate background, not just some Wikipedia page. And I don't feel like that was done. And that is the editor's job. At least in a story like this, in a book like this, and how fast this book comes out. That should have been someone's job to help her write the best story she could write. And they failed. I don't, Stephanie didn't have malice intentions here, and I don't have malice intentions in saying that the story is bad. But it is. And it's I love that she wanted to highlight Lady Hawk. I really do. Because I stated it from the beginning. Rosetta and Regina are such good characters with so much depth that we really never got into in the series. I would love to explore those characters more. This was not the way to explore them. Because all this did was shit over the entire thing that was created around them. The entire mystique, the entire story and background that they have. And it, and to me, not knowing anything about Lady Hawk beyond a quick internet blurb is what creates stuff like this and what creates misinformation like this. Doing research for comics shouldn't be a 20-minute online read if you are writing a story in that world. And yet that's exactly that's probably the amount of research that was done, was about a 20 minutes Wikipedia search. You have to go to the source, and it is hard. It's hard when you have quick deadlines and probably a ton of other stories that you need to get out because you need to pay your bills.
Yeah.
It's hard when you have it's hard when you have a podcast as a hobby after working over 40 hours a week in a fast-paced tech environment such as I do. I don't talk about my job much, but beyond what my final product is, it's really not much different than being an editor at Marvel, at least from what I could find, and I did do my research to try and find most of it. I might not know everything that goes on into getting a comic published. I haven't walked that walk. But I do know that what makes a great project manager and a great implementation team is knowledge. And what I can see out of this final product here is that knowledge was not there. And it's not great. The story feels rushed. The story feels like it was, like I said earlier, voluntold to the writer. It might have been voluntold to the editors. But the editors didn't really care to go over that much. They didn't care to make sure that they had all of their ducks in a row and everything properly aligned to support their creative team the way they should have. Even if, they were supposedly well informed on the product's lore and what needs to be in there, like they claim in multiple podcasts that they never once actually bring up Spider-Girl in when they should have. And I did want to put that out there because I was listening until I kept hearing things that were not factually correct. Marvel, you let that happen multiple times, but I understand it's Yellow Shoes. It's not Marvel, it's Yellow Shoes. At some point, y'all are the same. And that's kind of what's proven here. But, at the end of the day, either Marvel didn't think that the audience would care enough about this story, or they didn't care who read it because it's a baked-in story to people who already pay for the app. And as a current, this is the current Disney motto, it seems. You're going to pay no matter what, so we can do whatever we want, and you can just take it. And I don't mean that to be glib. I don't mean that to be mean. This has been a Disney motto for a very long time. Thanks, Bob Iger. And, it's trickled down, and it shows.
I mean, yeah, when people bring up criticisms of Iger, it's this type of stuff that
we've known about Epic Universe for 10 years. Really? Because Universal hasn't known about Epic Universe for 8. And yet that's about to... I could go into Bob Iger's BS all day.
I mean, this is the type of stuff where there used to be a culture of... And look, this started before Disney and Marvel.
It did. Marvel had problems before Disney came in. Disney gave them a very good option to survive versus what we've seen with DC Comics and WB. Because I don't know if you guys are aware, but there is no more DC Comics. Not really. It's under WB entirely.
Which is hilarious because Marvel made fun of DC because of the AOL Time Warner. They started calling them AOL Comics. But
they weren't really back then until very recently.
Yeah, it ended up being kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because eventually, thanks to all the reorganizations and stuff.
But in any case, the point is, I know that I know that there were time constraints, and I don't think anyone was intentional about the lack of care that they gave to this story and gave to this world. But when the lore goes to the last place, like it falls to last place above everything else, like when the continuity takes a back seat to the story, especially when the story should be revolving around the world, when it's supposed to be highlighting this universe and highlighting this spider, and they're willing to kind of just do this, it, it it's upsetting. And lately it's been really cool. Like, apparently it's been the cool thing to do everywhere, because this is also happening in the 616. It's literally happening everywhere in Marvel, and it's not just Spider-Man. It's happening in X-Men. It's happening in Iron Man, in the Hulk. These things where they're bringing these writers in, they're not giving them the tools necessary to
Oh yeah.
effectively do their job. They're expecting them to do their research, and then they're failing because they don't have the time. And by all accounts, why would they? Why would, and they really aren't fans of what they're writing. They're taking the job because that's gonna, that's a paycheck. And
well, yeah. Sorry,
I
I
was
don't
like,
mean
I'm not done with my.
No, what I was going to say, I mean, I remember specifically with Spencer, he pointed out before he took the gig, he went and read it. He said he read everything, and I kind of believe him because of the things that he brought forth and the references that he made, and
Definitely did.
and so you can tell in the first half of that run the love, the care of the lore, and you just you haven't felt that sense. And there's a lot of things I can criticize, that other writer for, but he's a fan. Don't always agree with him, but he's a fan.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, we can, like, look, Slott knows his stuff, regardless of whether we agree on his opinions of certain characters and certain things. He does know it.
Yeah. Okay, back to your piece, and I'll shut up.
So anyway, it's just when letting the history and the lore of the comic take the back seat, and just kind of, it doesn't have to exist anymore. It can be whatever the heck you want it to be. You don't have to go back and actually look at it. There is no rule book of facts for that world. When is enough enough? Like, when does it stay that world, and when does it become another world? It's one of those, to me, it's like letting something like this slide when no one is watching is kind of telling to me. And it's one of those moments where I kind of start to get really burned out by Marvel and from reviewing comics. I don't think I've hidden that, especially lately, that I am burned out. Stories like this does not help. I bust my ass to try to get something out. I wrote in here blood, sweat, and tears, and I mean it. I do absolutely everything I can to make sure that I give you guys, and this is a hobby. I don't get paid for this. But I do everything I can to make sure that my ducks are in a row, that I am giving correct information. And now, of course, am I always right? No. Do I mess up? Yes. But I don't mess up like this. And I would, if I was the editor, I wouldn't have let this go out like this. If I was the writer, I wouldn't have written this like this. Now, would I have lost sleep? Yes. And that's kind of where, like, I think about these things, because I'm like, there might not have been a chance to do this, to keep food on the table, to keep bills paid. And I get that. And that's why I'm like, I'm not sitting here trying to tear someone down for not being able to do their job. This was a team effort, but no one's playing like a team anymore. and this is comics in general. Everyone is kind of in their own heads, and they're not really communicating, in my opinion. And this kind of shows this. But it's, when I talk about just reviewing these comics, I bust my butt in doing this. Like, I mean, and Zach knows, my life's fallen apart twice since the beginning of Make Mine Mayday. And I don't really have it in me to get everything I need to, to do constantly and stay on top of social media like I should, and be out there and be a face for comic reviews like some people want me to be. Like, I can't do that all the time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help when I don't feel like I'm valued as a fan to do that. Like after reading this at the end of 2022, and pair with kind of what we saw in 2023 with Marvel storytelling with the end of Spider-Verse, my motivation beyond getting something out for this show has been zilch, because this deflated all of my motivation. Because this story to me showed I was not valued as a fan of Marvel, that they did not care that I've been paying $10, $150 a year for 14 years. They don't care. They don't care how much money you spend. They see it as a number. They see you, the fan, as a number. And they just want the revenue at the end of the day. And when this stuff like this happens, then you start to feel like, look, I have a life I can focus on. I need to get my life together. I don't have to focus on these stories. I don't have to focus on these reviews. Why should I? And that's kind of how it needs to be. Zach has attested to how much, I've endured since 2020 alone. And maybe, that's what a part of this comic is to me. Spider-Girl's story is no longer for us. It's no longer for the longtime fans. That's kind of what Marvel is showing us here. The ones who have been reading since the beginning, or from What If 105, from the Scholastic book fairs, comics have completely moved on. And now that they can see the Spider-Girl IP is bankable, even though it's something we've been saying, it's something that literally Sean just got a no prize for. Saying it's bankable. You can do more with the IP. And now that they finally have realized that they can, F you, screw everybody who got the app up and running. Screw all these fans who fought like hell to keep this title around. We don't need you I mean, Marvel pretty much is telling us they don't need us anymore. And especially, like I said in the beginning, how I feel like if I didn't do and absolutely mind my P's and Q's here, someone somewhere in Marvel is going to tear me down, specifically me. Because I am a girl. I'm one of the few women reviewing Spider-Man comics consistently. And they're going to say that I don't know my stuff and that I'm just being angry to be angry. And that's why I wanted to make sure I had everything right for this issue. Because clearly Marvel is watching. They just don't care enough to do a good job. And if we let them continue to write like this, if we tell them that this is okay, like I had a lot of fans tell me, this is the quality you will get. And everything that Tom did, everything that the team wrote, everything that made Spider-Girl what it is will be gone. And I don't think y'all understand that. Because Marvel certainly does not care about the history.
You got to think about.
I'm not even done. Like,
I know. I know. I know. Like, to jump in on your point for a second.
yeah, no, you're fine. I'm like I said, I feel lost in the sauce because I'm trying to
I
stay
know
concise.
that what Tom and Ron and Pat and Ron Lim and all these guys that worked on this did. They provided a really incredible foundation to build on. You just got to use that foundation. And instead of trying to sit there and make your mark on a book by let's twist the characters and twist them till they break. No, does it make what makes a good Spider-Girl story is the first question you should ask. I don't know if Stephanie had the tools. There's an editor at Marvel that I know of that does his job really well. Danny Kazim, who edits the J.M.D. Mateus books. And it was him that said, "Hey, there's this character, Proto Goblin, that was in a one shot in the 90s. Maybe we should play with that." And they were off to the races because they have this collaborative already established rapport, and they can build off of that. I don't know how much Ellie was talking. You know,
Oh, I'm like trying to. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to like star things. Just keep
Yeah.
talking, Zach.
So again, it's one of those things where, and I hate interrupting because like I got to read this today before we started the show as I was building my notes. And the reason that I didn't throw in a ton of notes in this episode is because I rubber stamp and wholeheartedly agree with what Kelly is saying here. And she's doing it so eloquently. And so that's
Try
why
my best to like not be like I'm angry. Here's because
we
again,
don't
and
want,
see, and again, and it's another, and it's and this is something that like I've brought up before. I'll say something, and like y'all have seen this. I will say something, and I will get so much hate. Like I don't think you guys know
I
that
mean,
the Eric Von douchebag and the other Comics Gate guys, they know my name. They know me. Surprisingly, they are not the worst people. They send me mail um in comments, but they are pretty not great people.
no.
And they don't think highly of women in comics. And when you have Marvel, people like Nick Lowe insinuate we reviewers don't know what they're talking about and have insinuated certain things that I do believe were directed towards me on the crawl space. It makes it very hard to not want to scream when you consistently see the things that are ultimately going to ruin the industry. I don't know where it's become okay to say we don't need to know the history. We don't need to know these back issues. We get to pick and choose what we remember and what we forget. And I don't know when it became okay to misremember it and let those mistakes slide until they become the new canon. But that's been my biggest worry and my biggest fear with a new creator coming in for Spider-Girl is this story. This story was my nightmare. Because nobody did their research. Except maybe Nathan Stockman. And I don't know how much say he had in the story creation.
Yeah.
So, you know, to kind of get back on my thing, you know, some, you know, they feel like May needs this new voice. And she needs this new history that isn't so lore heavy. So casual fans can jump in and know everything, right? So let's throw away Deacon's Den for McDuffie's Place. Even though, would a newer fan know who McDuffie is? Would they know the importance of that? Or would they be wrong in not knowing that? So, like, what was the point? You know, let's show Lady Hawk as a crime-fighting duo so we can have a differently abled superhero shown. Let's throw away Wes, who has been there through at least 2 Spider-Verses, to show some generic guy, because May has to flirt with some random blonde guy, right? And now everyone needs organic webs. Because the Raimi movies are a classic now, which, I mean, they are. They're about the only movie selling theaters out 20 years later. But
Yeah.
but still, look at all these changes to make it cool and new and exciting for newer fans, even though it throws everything that has been written the last 25 years out the door. And this, like I said, this isn't on Stephanie. This isn't on Nathan. I don't even think at the end of the day it's entirely on Mr. Daniel or Ellie Pyle. This is a bigger problem within Marvel not honoring anything that came before Disney took over. This is a Yellow Shoes problem, in my opinion.
So, Yellow Shoes being
Yellow Shoes is the marketing company. Yellow Shoes, I mean, and when I say marketing, I mean they are the ones that make the choices down from how a costume is supposed to look in the parks to what is put out. They are the PR team for Disney. They keep up with the Disney lore, and they don't seem to care about the Marvel lore. They don't care about the Star Wars lore. They just care about what makes them money. But this whole idea that came after Disney took over, the put the toys back in the box, don't do anything that can't be undone. Don't let the storytellers have the time to create or do their research and grow. Don't let the creators tell the stories that they want to tell with the characters that they want to tell it with, because every story needs to be able to translate into another medium if it sells well. And this is just, at the end of the day, this is just content farming. And there's a lack of editing within the content farming and a lack of continuity, and it shows majorly. And doing it to Spider-Girl, who up to that point, even with Slott at the helm, even with what they did in Spider-Verse, still had Mayday at her core. She was still her. And, you know, even though her entire world was falling apart, she still was who she was. And she still had her history and her friends and her people. It was still World 982, even if the world was crumbling. And this is not it. This story is not it. It is not 982. This is not canon, and this is not Mayday Parker. This hurt me to read and to be told by Marvel that this is 982. And especially having them market it as such. And that's my main gripe here, that we, the fans, worked so hard, sometime at the detriment to ourselves, even today, to keep not just this character alive, but her entire world alive. And this is what Marvel gives us as a thank you. This is the no prize. And some no prize it is. And that's what, and this is the thing. When we continue to let this be okay, when we continue to tell the people that are upset by it to shut up, to just take it, that they don't have valid criticism, this is the kind of quality storytelling that they're going to continue to tell. And that's what they want us to do. They want us to shut up. They want us to go away. Although they want our money. But they don't want to give us the stories we want to see. So thank you to I wrote 20 people who listen to us, but there is 76 people watching. So holy crap. And I appreciate it. I know that this community is small, a lot smaller than it used to be. And many older fans who helped save Spider-Girl have long moved on from comics. But if you hear this, and you hear me, and I make sense, I'm not just like randomly blabbing my mouth, maybe we can rally the troops one more time and do something to remind Marvel that we are still here and we don't want them to abuse our girl or her world like this anymore. Not that they'd listen, but it is just a thought. And that's kind of what I had. Because I really think we do need to rally the troops one more time. I think we are at a moment where we need to save Spider-Girl one more time.
You can hear the emotion in Kelly's voice as she is saying these things. And I look at myself as a Ben Reilly fan and seeing what they did to my...
Yeah, do y'all really want April to be the new Baja Blast?
Look what they did to my boy. But like, there is a lot of good that's coming out of Marvel, at least in this parts of the Spider Office. But stuff like this in ASM, it's difficult to be a fan of this long-term stuff. And this mentality of us trying to fit everything in. And, somebody asked in the comments, how would you make this story work? Well, one, I think we've kind of said it, put her in college.
Well, that's
give us a time.
It's the quickest fix. And now we could talk about that all day, about whether that was right, that would be right or wrong, whether that was the right or wrong move with Spider-Man. But it just, aging her up a little bit would have made more sense.
Yeah. Putting her at 18, freshman.
Well, and even with Lady Hawk, you could have brought in like literally a quick little blurb saying that, they decided to be a crime-fighting duo. Something happened. I mean, there's nothing here that cannot be fixed and cannot work, but it doesn't work where they're placing it.
Yeah, as it's presented, it doesn't work. This is the reasons why. And to dovetail part of what Kelly was saying, we don't want the Spidey Radio Network to be part of this angry internet.
I love Stephanie's stories with Shuri.
Yeah,
I love them. Yeah. Like I said, this has nothing to do with her writing. She's not. I don't think she's the problem here.
No, she was having to crank this out and pump this out and and they were just slotting it in. Hey, I need you to write this 4-issue story. I need you to write it in 3 weeks, and get us plots so we can get to Nathan, and Nathan, does a little bit of research. Went a long way. And do you want the stakes that we used to get with Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz? Or do you want ramen noodles, McDonald's? Because that's what this essentially is. It's an unfulfilling story.
It's not even McDonald's. This is this is that like that huddle house in the middle of nowhere.
I was gonna say Carl's Jr. or Jack in the Box.
Yeah, that too. But
Yeah. You know,
but-
it's not. We did not fight as hard as we have fought, and this is this is this spiritual.
you know what's funny? It's like we could pop off and talk smack on a slot story all day long.
Yeah.
And I hate saying that because I'm sure, as we know, he doesn't like it. But we're talking smack because it's talking fan to fan. I know he knows what he's doing. And ultimately, to me, he writes women offensively. And seemingly does not seem to understand that, the problem with taking over a adult man's body without consent is weird. So, trying to do it again in an 8-year-old's body is like 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Slot. I'm like I said, I'm gonna, but
if you want to hear more about her thoughts on that, definitely recommend becoming a patron over at SpidermanCrawlspace.com. Because the satellites episodes are freaking lit. I'm just gonna say they're lit.
With me, Josh, and Neil in a room together should not be allowed. Or Sarah.
Or
Me,
Sarah.
Sarah. Yeah, no.
But I'm just back to a little bit what I was saying about the outrage, internet outrage industrial complex that exists. We don't want to be that way.
No.
And
we also we don't want to subject newer writers who ultimately have a lot of promise just as a writer.
Yeah. I think.
See, to me, that's my thing. We get mad about these writers going, where in the world are they coming up with these stories? And it's like, it's more than them.
Yeah.
There's a team here. Look at how many people were on these issues. Not a single person. Not a single person could go research this. Not a single person could go fact check this. Not a single person could go, hey, maybe that doesn't work. That's not what happened.
Yeah. And I completely. There used to be a continuity cop. That was their job. That was their literal job.
Sleeping on the job. They're at Disney World. That's what's happening. They're just on a permanent vacation at Disney World.
Well, I'll be honest. They were probably eliminated during the cuts in the mid-90s. During the Harris administration when they were during the bankruptcy era. And poor Lucy. So Kelly, I'm gonna. Oh, poor Lucy. Doggo. So Tevia, to answer your question, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I don't know if y'all could hear that.
Yeah, we could hear. It wasn't very loud, but Lucy's just being Lucy. It's fine. She's making her displeasure known.
She's done.
So do we want to do the comment before the emails, or we want to do it after the emails?
Let's do it after the emails. Let's do the emails first. How about you go ahead and take Matthias, and I will take Marcy.
All right. So the first email, we have 2 emails. So thank you. The email address is makemymayday@gmail.com or SpiderDudeRadioNetwork@gmail.com. Either one is fine. We will read any and all feedback on future episodes. So Matthias C. I love I'm not going to say your email address, but I love your email address, by the way. Congrats on getting this far episode-wise. Not many appearances left unless you want to do a lightning round to count May variants and her various appearances in media like the UK Spider-Man comics or Skin and Ultimate Alliance or her appearance on Earth X. I just wanted to share a few skins that the community over at Marvel Mods have made. All except for April's Mayhem form were made by him. Mayday is her own playable character in Ultimate Alliance now, with voices from heroes, and he personally plans to turn the Earth X Mayday mod into an April booster so everyone can have the sisters tag team and against the forces of evil. Oh, you're good. Ignore the mannequins of turtles in the background. Those are for a project that he's working on. And just for fun, he ported Peter B's Strike Force design into the game, and he looks absolutely ridiculous with Baby May being a static object. He does have to ask, what would you want April to wear if she were to ever pop up on Earth 982 again? Ben Riley's Chasm suit, Kane's Scarlet Spider but blue. He'd love to hear our thoughts on it. It may be maybe it can be incorporated as an alternate skin, like with her Spider-Woman design or her superhero squad looks. He knows the state of the character is rocky at best at the moment, but that doesn't mean that the fans can't come together and celebrate, cheering her on. Sadly, the game currently lacks much MC2 support, but the fact that we have 2 versions of May before we got Annie is truly amazing. It just goes to show that no giant red demon can keep a good spider down. Whether May appears tomorrow or 10 years from now, they won't change her impact on readers like you or him, nor will it change what has already been published for the character. So why don't we just all have hope and comfort that she isn't in fact gone. Cheers on everything, and he can't wait for this episode. So thank you to Matthias for that lovely email.
Did you show the photos?
So let me pull the photos up for those that are listening to the audio edition. Once again, visual aids and or live comments have. So this is the Peter B. Parker with Baby May as a static object, which is great. And then these are the.
Okay, so that's with the webs. So Spider-Woman.
Yep.
Yep.
And also to the right, that's the more recent. That was the Web Warriors look on the right hand side with April, and then you've got multiple designs there. So you got Felicity in May, got April's blue costume. You got the costume from Felicity in her dream sequence, and then Earth X May. So that's really a lot. That's really, really cool. I like that a lot. So really cool. Ultimate Alliance is a very underrated game. I wish that they would remaster it.
Yeah, we can't. I think it's
Activision.
Yeah, it's Activision, but I also believe the US license is in limbo.
Yeah, for the event, like for the Avengers.
Yeah, it's also one of the reasons why Alliance is it's more popular in the UK and Europe than it is in the US. Yeah. There's something funky with the licensing.
They did a third game. So there was the original Ultimate Alliance and then Ultimate Alliance 2, which was based on Civil War. And then they did Ultimate Alliance 3, but it was only on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
So it was weird. Yeah. So yeah, thank you to Matthias.
AKA Professor.
It's the Professor.
It is the Professor.
Thanks, Professor.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the suits? I mean, I personally would like to see April in Baja Blast, but
you know what? Like
Chaos Agent in me.
Listen, the design of Baja Blast is not the issue. It's the who is under the Baja Blast is the issue for me. Like the designs of Hallows Eve and Baja Blast.
You know what? I don't see. Here's my thing, and we can talk about this later. But like him, like Ben becoming what we're calling Baja Blast, because I'm not allowed to say his name for fear that I will say something else.
Freudian slip.
Yep. But I don't hate it. I don't hate the idea. It's how it was executed.
Oh,
it's
100%.
The characterization. It's that it gives off, so in Batman Ends, before New 52, long time ago, the characterization and the cardboardification of Jason during Battle for the Cowl, that's what it gives. And it's there's no motivation here. There's no this makes no sense. Because you just essentially said, hey, we need them to be evil. So here, versus there could have been more lead up. There could have been, and that's what I think is maddening. There were bones there. That could have been a great story. It just, somebody didn't know what they were writing.
A DeMatteis or a person like DeMatteis with Ben Reilly, given that directive, he would have chewed the scenery up, and he would have made that into a filet mignon that would have been chef's kiss good.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
it didn't happen.
Season 2 of SDE, for those that don't know about Beyond stuff.
All right. So the
second
email is from our very own Marcy Regina Wu, who is in the comments. And she wrote that she just wanted to say hi. So I'm just going to kind of just read it. Just wanted to say that I've really been enjoying the chaos of the last few episodes and how they have been going. It's also funny to think about how much exposure May has gotten since the show started. Spider-Verse, Ultimate, Unlimited, even if it isn't in the same Mayday. My question to you is, what would you pitch for a May versus Mephisto arc, as was hinted in Spencer's run? How would MC2 May handle the situation to where she somehow beats Satan himself? Maybe April shows up. Maybe they shove him inside Riley. I'd love to know. Personally, I choose to believe that it's something akin to Edge of Time or Sonic '06, where every totem along the timeline, Peter, May, Miguel, have to beat him in their respective eras for his influence to be wiped. Also, how would Mayday react to Ultimate May based off the first 4 issues? I can see her having a better dynamic since Ultimate May can actually talk and act in ways that Baby, or I guess not so baby anymore, Benji can. Much love. So thank you for your letter, Marcy. Honestly, I don't know if that was Mayday in Spencer's run, or at least Mayday as we know her. Quite honestly, when I really do think about the story and think about what Spencer was trying to set up, um, and this kind of goes back into the what happened with Ben becoming Baja Blast. But
Yeah.
when I go back to like Mephisto's vision in that story and Spencer's story, I kind of get the sense, especially the way Spencer had started to set up Ben and Janine again, was that maybe that Mayday we saw was really their kid, especially with the red hair and the what almost looked like brown eyes. Especially, and maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm totally crazy on that, but I just don't think that the obvious answer it was the answer right there, and I think that that was the misdirection.
Yeah.
um, which is a lot of fun, story wise. And I think it was a way to kind of show that Mephisto acted on fear, that he ruined Peter's life and MJ's life based on fear. And it's almost a direct answer to the fear of letting a character grow and grow older. Because, at the end of the day, it turns out it's not Peter's kid, it was his clone's kid. And, his clone is kind of split, like his soul is split in these clones. And, Mephisto can't really see the future, not in an obvious way. But I don't know. I just wouldn't go with here's this is the reason the marriage, got cosmically annulled.
86.
Yeah, at 86.
Well,
But
it's just.
yeah,
I mean, every time we've tried to fix the problem of Mephisto, I mean, they did it with Omit to try to say, "Oh, it wasn't actually Mephisto; it was Doctor Strange." Yeah, it's Doctor Strange, which they end up adapting in the MCU to a far better, more effective effect. It every time we try to do this, it's not good because it's because it goes back to that house we're talking about. There's the foundation of that story is such a bad story that you have to have a very talented writer to be able to try to unpack that and make it make sense. I don't personally hate your headcanon there, Kel, because like that would make more sense. Again, it just felt like somebody gave Spencer a bag of money and he took that bag of money and ran as far as he could.
Oh no, that's exactly what happened. He literally said, "I can take this money and I don't have to deal with this." Cool, bye.
And
And I don't blame him.
and as our beloved friend Greg Bashansky says in the comments, in the immortal words of Life of Riley, Mephisto is not a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah, no. But if our Mayday had to go toe to toe with the devil, I don't think she'd make a deal with the devil. But B, pretty sure the story would probably have to end in more like May beating Mephisto in a battle of will. Mephisto realizing he can't corrupt May, and May not giving up. She's not going to give up in protecting her family or friends or her world almost selflessly. So I don't think she or her would be that fun for Mephisto.
And the ace up the sleeve is that you do have Riley there, who is literally partially possessed by
a
Zathros,
demon, yeah.
a demon, and so he would probably be able to provide the ammunition to help defeat. You would almost have to involve Riley in that story.
Oh,
and
you'd have to involve everybody in that story. Yeah, I mean it's, but yeah, and as far as May like meeting other versions of herself, I was literally like thinking about it, and I was like, honestly, it's a bit weird. I mean, like I get it, I get like especially with like all the different versions of Peter and Spider-Verse and everything, but I feel like she'd be freaked out and probably like maybe not like avoid a small child, but I don't think she'd really want to talk to a small child more than she had to, because I think it'd be a little awkward.
Well, it would be. It would throw her off, certainly, because you're seeing a sort of
just like seeing another normie.
Seeing the other normie in Annie's world threw her off, which
and thinking about forgetting she wore a t-shirt.
Okay.
Anyway,
see last episode for the chaos.
Yeah, I honestly like. I got questions. I still have questions. I will always have questions.
By the way, I hope Jodie's is feeling better and doing better with
yes.
She had a horrible accident at Emerald City Comic-Con where she just had this extremely bad vertigo, had to go to the hospital. It was a horrible ordeal for her. So I'm hoping that she's recovering.
I hope Jodie feels better.
So
I want her on one day to ask her the true important question.
What
happened with that?
I'm trying to that's like one of, she's on the list for that reason.
Yeah.
So
but yeah, so and then I wrote like basically the emails did cut off at 1 p.m. on Saturday. But if you want to send us an email, good or bad review, I don't care. Tell us how much you hate us, Marvel. Voicemail, anything. Please do.
Voicemail line. 818-925-6661.
And yeah.
I keep that thing alive for reasons. I don't know why. It's just because I'm painfully stubborn, even though nobody calls. Walter, that's not an excuse for you to call and leave a gravelly voicemail, sir.
I mean, you can if you want to.
They're used to, I'll be honest, I was listening to some old CSC episodes, and there were some guys that like loved the chaos on that used to leave the most random voicemails. So my thoughts on what she was asking was that somewhere Rich Johnson felt a disturbance in the force. I just think that was a bone thrown in for reasons. I don't know what Spencer intended until we get an interview of him discussing his departure, but I don't know if we will ever know, because I also wonder if he's not allowed to talk about it because like of an NDA or whatever. Who knows? We don't know what the circumstances were other than he got a bag of money and ran. Which if you're a freelance writer, considering we unfortunately, due to reasons that I will not say, we know how much they pay their writers now.
I'm still shocked by that. I really am. Anyway. But yeah, so, and with that, our next, well, actually, let's go through questions and then we'll talk about next episode.
Yeah, let's go through our. So Ryan Reed talked about how we were doing CSI Make Mine Mayday. One thing that I can think of is maybe they linked the comments to a more recent one. I don't know. Like that this is talking about the early stuff at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. Did they track them via subscriptions? I don't think so. Like I think there's a reason, because so the thing about Sean, I don't think has been in the community very much. He was in college when he wrote he wrote that letter 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So he's totally moved on.
He's a full-fledged adult. Probably.
He's closer to Peter's age in Spider-Girl than he is Spider-Girl now. We all are. But it's I think he was very shocked by it, and so he went to go find the sub, because I thought it was hilarious when Frogoat, who, as you guys know, created the subreddit,
Yeah.
commented on it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you would be here."
Yeah. Well, I expected you to be here. Yeah.
So, like I said, it's very. Honestly, it's creepy, man. They're listening.
I'd love to get Frogo on, but he lives in Australia, and I don't.
We're waking up at 3 a.m.
We're gonna do it on a Saturday. We're gonna.
I want to talk to Frogo. He deserves an interview. He deserves an interview all by himself, honestly.
Dude, occasionally he'll pop up on my memories, and
guys, if you guys do not know who Frogo is, or his blog Spot. I'll link it. Please go look.
It's great.
Yeah.
So Marcy thought maybe they're low key and confirming Spectacular Spider-Girl the movie, but yeah. So did any of Peter's genes go into the Ultimate Mayday? Because 10 times she's a redhead.
Yeah, no. Just only 982.
That's Mr. Abnormal to you.
It's not MR either. Like, his name is Mr. Abnormal, and that's what I was so like. You can't even like. He no longer even gets Mr.
Yeah. We're talking about the web shooters. It says, wait, actually, why does he have a cane? Didn't the other fix that?
Technically, but this was written before.
This was before that story. So it's
clearly the editorial office was not talking to each other.
No, clearly. Marcy's headcanon is that Annie or Cindy got drunk and accidentally screwed up the multiverse. Why is Annie getting drunk?
Well,
she's a minor.
We know how her dad is. Her dad. Her specific father.
He's the cool dad.
Anyway.
Walter does not, that guy has no hair bun because he has class.
Okay.
I don't know what that's a reference to. CBN.
I don't either.
Okay.
Move on.
As in only Peters with organic webs, because I did forget about Silk. Yes,
Silk does. Yeah, Silk does.
Because she uses it even to make her costume. Kane had it.
We forget. No, we don't bring that up.
Well, yeah.
That's a part of the bad time.
You're grabbing the spray bottle and hitting me with it. Walter asked if it was the 60s Batman TV show.
It does sound like it. Randy Cade does sound like a 60s Batman villain.
Will Benji get hit in the head? Tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
But is Baby Benji also portrayed by actor Burt Ward?
Holy galloping gobsmackers. Oh no, Benji walked into a
Five Nights at Freddy's. No, Five Nights at Freddy's is cool. This is pretty lame.
I don't, dude. I've watched the John Oliver Chuck E. Cheese, but have you ever watched that where he goes into the Chuck E. Cheese segment? Oh,
yes,
it's hysterical.
I've watched a lot about Chuck E. Cheese and his child casinos. Charles Cheese and his child casinos.
Entertainment is his middle name. So yeah, Walter says that Mayday got OMD'd.
Yeah, this is One More Day Spider-Girl edition.
Avengers Unlimited is another title on the app to follow the multiverse stuff and short stories.
Oh yeah, this is to bring up because there was some confusion in the comments. Yeah. Avengers, there's a multiple Infinity Comics in the Marvel app.
The Tevia and Vinkman say that you need a hug, and a big hug at that.
I need Marvel to apologize.
Eric Porter says, great job, you two. Kelly is dead on with the depiction of Marvel Comics. They simply don't care about telling good stories anymore. Hello to Neil, who's still on vacation. He's about to have a big sleep, but he hopes we're having a good stream. And then Professor says he'd like to point out that what we're describing about Mayday's lore being tossed out is what Marvel did with Earth 2099. So much so that they basically went to Peter David and said, hey, this next 2099 thing, we're just going to do it right after the last issue. You cool with that? Okay. Great.
But see that, but this brings it up. Like, that's what I've
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Cassandra. Sometimes in this fandom, I feel like Cassandra. I feel like I'm literally sitting here screaming into the void saying, is this really what you want?
Yeah.
And nobody is listening.
Misery Brick says it feels like there hasn't been consistency between the editors for the past decade at Marvel. I would argue. What's his name? Mark Grinwald. I would argue it's been bad since Mark Grinwald died, which is 1995. Unironically, April that in that outfit would be cool. Yeah. We would.
Baby Baja. She's Baja Blast Zero.
She's the diet version of Baja Blast. Best way to do Lady Hawk is say that they want to be a duo just to prevent another serious injury. But again, if we had like a panel where you explain that, again, there's
like I said, there's not a way that it can't fit. It's just there's a lot that needs to be explained to make it fit, and I don't think that was the intention. And I don't like I said, the issue at hand is not them going, wouldn't this be cool? No, they just didn't do their homework.
Yeah. Which is ironic because it's on Marvel Unlimited. You would think that
it's on Marvel Unlimited, and again, as I stated, the importance of Mayday for Marvel Unlimited and nothing.
In relation to, I believe, the Spencer stuff, Misery Brick just says you would just ignore it. Pinkman says that Patreon for both Spidey Radio and both Patreons are worth every penny. He says at least Marvel Ultimate Alliance is available on the Internet Archive. The third game apparently is just a glorified Future Fight sequel. So
probably.
Right. And so he gave more context, but he tried to do all of them, including Symbiote May, Earth X May, and maybe Black Suit May with the red mask. We already talked about that. Also, punching statement for Neil says feels too much like wish fulfillment to him. Like we're talking about what we want to do and trying to jam it into the book is like wish fulfillment.
Well, so yes, the idea is, but at the same time, like if it was to be a story, that's kind of my point, is that I think someone who wasn't trying to just like pander wouldn't have that happen. That's kind of what I was saying, is like I don't think that the fight would end in a fight. I think it would be Mephisto trying their best to corrupt May and finding a weakness in her and realizing that her weakness at the end of the day is really her strength, and that it's not that fun. The devil can't have that much fun in World 982. And just kind of leaves it be is kind of my thought process there.
So on the subject of the devil, Greg's been rereading Sandman and just reread Season of the Mist. So just go read Sandman for good stuff like that. Marvel apparently is watching because Kevin Feige has spies in the walls. Feige's in the walls, apparently.
Feige is in the walls. Feige, I don't think cares. Because he doesn't have the rights for Spider-Girl.
Yeah.
That would be Sony. And
why does Baja Blast Zero sound more like a manga title? Wouldn't this be
quick, Marvel Japan.
Let's do it. All right. They could do like what Mark Millar infamously did and reached out to the Spider fan people and was like, hey, I want to get the continuity right. And did during Marvel Nights. Which is one of the few times they mentioned Baby May, I might add.
It's true. It's true. Last little note before we move on is just Neil saying, I think one more day getting resolved off screen, and then what just happened here? What are you doing?
My bad.
What are you doing?
My bad.
What are you doing? But anyway, I think one more day getting resolved off screen, and then they just passively brush it off in the first issue of the relaunch would be really funny. That's what to bring it back to Spider-Girl, that's what Tom and Ron have said about Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Just brush it off and move on. But yeah, so with that, let's go into our next episode, our last review until more Mayday happens, which apparently will be later this year.
Yep, but that doesn't mean that Make Mine Mayday is going to be
going away. No, we're not going away. We will talk more about that next episode, but on our last review is going to be another Marvel Unlimited episode. This time all about a Next. We'll go over Avengers Unlimited Infinity Comics issue 37 and 38. What are you doing, Zach?
I was saying happy. I was trying to be happy. What do you mean, Donovan, doing?
Did you not see what just happened?
No.
Play that back as I finish this.
Did the thumb thing pop up above my head? My bad.
It was like black and like gold sparkle. Like it was weird.
Oh, the celebration thing. Okay, my bad. Sorry, it's a Mac thing. My bad. I forgot that I had that on still.
Huh.
Gabby enjoyed it.
Well, yes. Okay. Well, anyway, we'll go over Avengers Unlimited Infinity Comic issue 37 and 38, written by Tom DeFalco and art by Ron Frenz, Brett Breeding on inks, Chris Sotomayor on color. Definitely a great palette cleanser after this, and ending with the team back together one more time as a great way to cap off 3 years of reviews. So until next month, which is really like in a few days. So very soon. So stay tuned, true believers. And until then, make mine Mayday.
Make mine Mayday. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being a part of everything. Wrong one. So if you want to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Spidey Network, Twitter, you can find us both on Twitter. Spidey Radio at Make My Mayday, YouTube. If you are not already listening to us on YouTube and not giving us that 5-star review, or giving us that thumbs up and that like, that share, that subscribe, please go do so. If you're listening to the audio edition, please give us that 5-star review. Find us over on Instagram as well, at Final Gorkel, at Spidey Network, and you can also find me on TikTok, but eventually we'll be streaming live on those. So thanks to everybody that was watching. Thanks for everybody that's been a part of it. Thank you to all of us thanks to Kelly for hosting the show. So without further ado, thanks for listening and this being a part of the Spidey Dude Radio Network.